Today's story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my tenant because she keeps complaining about my refusal to get another dog after my original died? Oh, how fun.
Hey, you. Welcome back. My name's Jack, the snack that smiles back. You must be here to find out who the a-holes are today. Well, I'll provide the stories, you provide everything else, and let's get started.
Ah, it's beautiful, but it's so hot.
Just like you.
Apologies for formatting issues. First time poster. Sorry. So I have this tenant who I'll call Anna. She has 2 small children and 1 preteen. Unsure of exact ages, but around 5 male, 6 female, and 12 female. No husband or partner in the picture, and she doesn't share custody, so she has all the kids all the time. She's been living on the front house of a 2-house section that I own. I live in the 2-bedroom studio at the back of the property. She's been my tenant for 3 years and is generally a good tenant. Occasionally late with rent and bills, and one of her children finger-painted a couple of walls, but otherwise a good tenant. The problem has come about because my dog got PTS in January, old age. I was devastated. Anna made it clear that her kids were upset too, and initially I was understanding. Her children had often come to the back of the property to play with my dog prior to her death. The issue initially was that her kids would show up at my door after school, asking where my dog was. Often, they would let themselves into my backyard in search of her, something they hadn't done before, and didn't seem to understand that she was dead. This escalated after my boyfriend was sunbathing on the porch, topless but wearing shorts. When the kids burst into the backyard, they bolted home and told their mother, and she called me to scream at me about protecting her children's innocence. I told her to keep her children off my property from then on. She is now insisting that I get another dog because it's unfair for the kids not to have a dog to play with. I refused, partly because I don't have the time for a puppy. I don't necessarily want the responsibility of her children around a puppy, and I'm allergic to dogs. My old dog I inherited after my parents passed away because my sister had just had a baby and couldn't take her, and we agreed she was too old to rehome. This has now gone on for over 6 months, and I'm sick of the twice weekly calls where she asked when I'm planning on getting a dog, and I'm sick of her children showing up in my backyard whenever they feel like it. My boyfriend is also concerned about the possible repercussions on us should the children see him sunbathing again. My sister has just lost her job and can't afford her apartment as a single-income household. Initially, I had planned on inviting her to live with us, but will make my house very cramped with 2 couples, a toddler, and a baby. I'm now thinking I will ask Anna to leave and give her a couple of months to move out, then let my sister move into that house and help my sister pay rent at her apartment until then. However, I know house hunting is awful at the moment, and Anna is unlikely to find another 3-bedroom house inside her budget as a single mum. So, would I be the a-hole if I ask her to leave? Especially because, even though I will tell her it's for my sister, it's really because I'm sick of being reminded about my dead dog. Before I get to the comments, I'm gonna make my point. I believe you're absolutely free to. She's renting off you. She doesn't own this place. She has no right to stay there. At least where I live, the law says you only need to give about a month's notice if you want someone to vacate a property when their lease is up. So if anything, you're being very generous by letting them know 3 months in advance. Also, these are the sort of pros and cons you have to accept and understand when it comes to renting versus owning a home. Of course, this mother isn't exactly in the financial situation where she can be choosing like that. If she didn't have a bunch of kids, she likely could have been saving up the money. But that's not me saying that having kids was the wrong choice. If she's genuinely happy raising those kids and all that, then all the best to her. The fulfillment of having children goes beyond just money stuff anyway. But of course, it does have its cons. Just like deciding to buy your own house but being locked with that house for the next 40 years of your life to pay off a mortgage. She's just taken a different route in her life, and you shouldn't be guilt-tripped into not removing her from the premises because of it. Nata, as long as you give Anna a reasonable amount of time to move out, like you said. I'm sorry about your dog, and it's insensitive for Anna to keep asking you to get a new one just to entertain her kids. Pets aren't toys. If your sister wasn't involved in this, I would recommend warning Anna more sternly about not bringing up getting a new dog anymore. But your sister needs a place to stay. Seems justified to me. Nata, as long as you give her ample notice and are not in breach of any contracts. Finding a house right now may suck, but she sounds extremely entitled and demanding. Nata, you own the house. End of story. If you need to tell her why she's getting evicted, tell her it's because she has no respect for your boundaries. You owe her nothing, and she's seething with entitlement. This will be a harsh reality check that will hopefully let her understand, once again, that you need to respect your neighbors when they respect you. To be fair, I do have to consider the fact that maybe she just assumed that it was okay because the kids have always been doing that. After all, did you ever warn her in the first place that she shouldn't let her kids go into the backyard, even just to see her dog, without her permission? I do read that Anna is a bit entitled, but also may just have assumed it was okay because you never brought it up in the first place. And a sec here makes a good point. I don't want to say most of the options because I think this one has too much nuance. As for the people saying it's your property to do what you want, we are in the middle of a pandemic. She has kids, etc. So it wouldn't exactly be good to kick her out. Saying that you have your sister to worry about also. I'd say talk to her again. Make a record of exactly what you and she say about the kids not going into your section of the property. Then she wouldn't have so much of a legal case against you depending on where you are. May want to look more into that. And see if you could give your sister some of the money from that rent. Because I imagine she wouldn't be paying rent, or at least not a lot, if she were living with you. Where I'm from, landlords have a bad rep for things like this, and evictions were made illegal due to the pandemic for some time, because of social obligation, etc. So I think maybe just be firm with her. Tell her if she wants a dog, she can have one, but would have to be hers, not yours, etc. Hope things work out, because this is a terrible situation. But do not encourage her to get a dog if you intend to end her rental. It will make it that much harder for her to find a place to rent. When people say landlords are evil, property hoarders, stories like this are the reason. Disclaimer, I'm not saying all landlords are evil, just that lots of people do think that. OP is within their rights, so a lot of people will say NTA, but just because you have the right to something doesn't mean you should do it. I somewhat feel like we're not getting the full story, to be honest, but regardless, kicking 3 kids out of their home in the middle of a pandemic is for sure a-hole-ish. I definitely like this point, where if you have the right to do something, that doesn't mean you should do it. But I also believe there's a difference between kicking someone out and letting them know that you're going to kick them out. Again, it's 3 months in advance. Also, tenants aren't the only ones who are struggling to get money. If anything, what's happening with the property market currently, it's the best time to try and upgrade, as a lot of people are having to sell their properties at a loss. Again, this depends on where you live and exactly where you are, but I'm currently looking for a new place to live, and I'll tell you, there's a few nice options. Boo! Hello, just noticing you're quite a bit into the video. If you're this far, that means you're enjoying yourself, or you've just forgotten to click off. Don't click off! If you could perhaps like this video or subscribe, that would be mwah. And I will mwah your face if I ever see you. That is not legally binding. Anyway, as you were. This story by a throwaway who really loves numbers. Am I the a-hole for siding with my ex rather than my current girlfriend after my girlfriend spread my ex's nudes? Oh, lovely. The title seems really bad, I know, but hear me out. I've been dating a girl, Sarah, not her real name of course, for quite some time now. She's basically perfect in every sense, and I love her very much. I had an ex named Mary, who I dated for about a year and a half. Sarah comes from a very conservative family, and has an access to all of my accounts. Red flag. She came across the nudes Mary sent me in my Gmail. That was a long time ago, and I didn't bother to delete it because it got buried in heaps of spam and other emails. Apparently, in Sarah's spare time, she reads all my previous activities with other people. With other people! Crimson flag! Sarah took a screenshot and sent it to our friends and classmates. Mary was obviously upset and went to my place to talk about it. I agreed with her, and we both talked to Sarah to take down the photos. She agreed, but she didn't speak to me for a couple of days up until now. We already have a delicate relationship, as I posted on another sub, and her friends won't stop hounding me about the big a-hole I was protecting Mary since I already have a new girlfriend. I no longer have feelings for Mary, but they keep insisting that I do because I sided with her over Sarah. I don't know what to do. I think I did the right thing, but I hurt my girlfriend really bad. Now I know how you're reacting to this story, and don't worry, I totally agree with you. But we also need to point out that this seems to be a high school relationship. Therefore, the mentality, maturity, and therefore smarts of the people in this story are the age of teenagers. Just something to consider while we go through the comments. Sarah has committed a criminal offense by distributing pornographic images. She needs to thank her lucky stars Mary did not press criminal charges. You're not the a-hole for defending and interceding on your ex's behalf. You're the a-hole for keeping the images and not dropping the psycho Sarah like a hot potato. Yeah, look, I can understand you're not wanting to bother going out of your way to delete the images because all the spam and stuff you'd have to scroll through. But by the way you typed it, you also acknowledged that they were there. Just like I said in my last video, if you break up with someone, you should delete all access to their nudes, just out of respect. Because even if there were criminal charges pressed, the lawyers could easily defend the fact that you gave Sarah access to them, and therefore are technically the one responsible for the nudes being spread. You could trust my legal advice. I've once seen an episode of Suits. I'm thinking breaking up with her, honestly. She can be difficult, but I love her so much. So far, I am checking all of my accounts to see if there are any nudes left, and I'm getting rid of them for good. Sir, you are in high school. I can assure you it's not genuine love, it's just loving the idea of love. No offense to any teens who are watching this. Just trust me, you think you're gonna be forever, but once high school ends, you're probably not. Keeping an ex's nudes is always a smack move, plain and simple. And this post is literally an example of a bad thing that can happen. I agree with ditching the girlfriend though. That showed a major lack of moral and intellectual judgment on her part. What kind of person is your girlfriend to be filled with that much jealousy and vindictiveness to humiliate and violate another person like that? Look, there are some people out there whose guts I hate, but I still can't imagine even wanting to do that to them. This isn't about taking sides. It's about discovering something very dark about her character. There are some lines that very obviously should not be crossed, and the fact that she doesn't even understand she did wrong, even though it's illegal, is so damning. She made an immoral choice that is rightly illegal. You did not hurt her. What else does she think she's allowed to do that you have to take her side on? Can she steal from someone she doesn't like too? Your girlfriend is not a good person. That was especially my thought regarding to how her friends were reacting to the situation. But again, why I also need to point out these are teenagers. While I still believe they should get the book thrown at them so they can at least experience the consequences for their actions, it should be acknowledged that you dumping her isn't going to fix her permanently. You, or specifically the school and law enforcement, need to make her understand what she did and why it was so horribly wrong to do. Nata for siding with your ex, but reevaluate your relationship with Sarah. Going through your old emails is a bit creepy and controlling. Does she realize you had a life before her? Siding with your ex was a decent thing to do, as what current girlfriend did was a crime. It seems your love of her is not as much as her love of you. A normal person would not do that. It's extremely hurtful and damaging. Imagine if it were done to her. Stuff like this can follow you for life. Seriously, your girlfriend is not perfect in every way. She's actually a criminal, is of poor character, as are her friends, and is creepy as frick. She goes through your old online correspondence. You're Nata, but you will be an idiot if you stay with her. You are not compatible ethically or morally. It's a deal breaker for some to do what she did. And just for kicks, here's a revenge plan by Sad YouTuber 2006. I also think he doesn't realize this is a teenager, not an adult. Holy frick! Nata, my guy girl, Nata. That's cruel. Think about it. She took advantage of your ex in her most vulnerable pictures. You should remind your ex you can sue. Personally, here's what I'd do. Step 1. Get on Mary's good side. Do this for as long as it would take. Delete all things from her phone or devices she could use against you, i.e. nudes. I think he meant Sarah, but let's continue. Step 2. Separate your finances. If finances are intertwined, separate the finances. Do this all without attracting suspicion. Step 3. Look for a new place to live. Find a good place. Possibly sign a lease. Explain what's going on to your current landlord. Step 4. Transfer into your new life and take off into the wind. Because who the heck does that? Think, OP. If she'll do it to her, she'll do it to you. This story by AmiTheA. Am I the a-hole for pretending to be a gay at a homophobe's wedding I crashed? Ooh, I'm gonna be conflicted about this one. My friend's family are hardcore Muslims and they hate gay people. Her cousin is getting married and she hates her cousin because she's super racist against Indian people and hates gays. She gave me the date and location of the wedding, so my friend Sam and I wore suits and showed up like normal guests and pretended like we were invited and made up some bull smack story about how we were in the same economics class. The wedding was actually pretty nice. Great food, dancing, music, etc., and we enjoyed it. Near the end, Sam and I danced in the middle and we kissed. Neither of us are gay, but we made out to tick them off, and holy freaking smack, their rage was insane! They were screaming and cursing, and someone flipped a table. We all got forcibly removed, and they were screaming at us in Pashto or Urdu or something. Bride yells on stage about us bundle of sticks ruined her wedding and we're going to hell. My friend is now ticked off at us. She told us we could crash it, but she said we took it too far, so she's not speaking to us. Oh, part of me's like, this is very a-hole, but also part of me's like, well, they shouldn't be so homophobic. I don't know. What do you guys think? It's a rather simple premise. But also, it's not like they were thrusting their prejudice onto them. The homophobes and racists, I mean. There's a difference between someone who actively hates and spits at those that they don't agree with, versus those who just find it uncomfortable to look at. I know an old female friend who actually finds gay people a bit icky when they kiss. She stressed that she genuinely doesn't look at them as less than human beings, but like as if two people were picking each other's noses in public. Now, of course, I don't find it disgusting. I definitely don't find it attractive in any way, because I'm straight. But I'm also thankful she opened up to me like that. It gave me a better insight into how there are some people out there who they don't need to be shamed into accepting homosexuality, but rather understanding and accepting that there are some people out there who just genuinely find it uncomfortable. It's like hanging out with someone whose partner is tied up and in some sort of BDSM gear. They're not being sexual to each other, not all exhibitionism is sexual, and some people express love through dominance and submission. I'm really simplifying my point for the sake of time. Basically, I think if this wedding also had a march against gay people, then yeah, maybe you had a right to crash it. You're the a-hole. You deliberately set out to disrupt someone else's wedding because they thought differently to you. Doesn't matter whether their thinking is wrong or not. You set out to ruin someone's special day because they don't share your ideals. And guess what? You have probably just reinforced all their prejudices in her mind. Well done. Very true, their actions were condescending in nature, basically giving the middle finger to them. But as we all know, behaving hostile to someone who doesn't agree with you always makes them change their mind. Of course, Yatar. You don't crash people's weddings. You also don't hijack a wedding to send a message, no matter how offending their beliefs may be. You should immediately apologize to your friend and the bride and groom. So is crashing a wedding that you're not invited to okay as long as it's a homophobe? I gotta say, Yatar, a lot of planning time and money goes into a wedding and you showed up uninvited, ate food, and took up space, then did something you knew would cause a scene. Reddit will defend you to the death because of the spectrum of who needs defending, gay over Muslim, especially if homophobic, but what you did was a terrible thing to do, if it even happened. Yatar, as a gay person, I think what you did was disrespectful, dumb, and unnecessary. Thanks a freaking lot. Yatar. A funny one. But you're still an a-hole. Yatar. And you know why? Imagine that couple has a kid, and that kid happens to be gay. Now, when they come out, the first thing their parents will think about is that weird couple that showed up uninvited and made a scene at their wedding. You confirmed their beliefs that gay people are attention people who will sneak into your wedding to steal food and make out, which is inappropriate on its own. If they didn't have a reason before, they definitely do now. You made them hate gays even more, and by this made the world a little harder for any other gay people that this couple will meet during their lifetime. As a bisexual, frick you. Sincerely. Yeah, true. I feel like they'd also be as uncomfortable and find this very disrespectful even if you were a straight couple. Like, you took up the middle of a dance floor and then just started making out passionately in front of everyone? I mean, who wouldn't find that rude and inappropriate at a wedding? Go under the table, like a gentleman.
Hello. That does us for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're looking at my face right now, that means you liked this video. So all I appreciate is if you would like the video back. Because if you like it, then I'll like you for liking the video, and then I can make more stuff for you to like that you can like, and it'll be just a constant cycle of never-ending pain and suffering. So don't do it alone, suffer with me. I don't know where I was going with that. If you haven't subscribed but you want to see some more content, then please, what are you waiting for? Click that notification bell so you're always updated on the latest content. And hey, why not check out some other videos while you're here? But anyway, that does me for today. Thank you again for watching. You're an amazing person. I love rambling at you, and I look forward to you staring at me beyond the abyss again soon. I can't close well. Don't at me, okay? My name's Jack. Bye-bye. You're amazing. See ya.